Welcome to Lesson 3 in Unit 20, What Energy Does. In this lesson, students will answer the question, what happens to energy when objects collide? In the previous lesson, students discussed inputs and outputs of energy transfers in a system. They will narrow their focus as they investigate energy transfer during collisions. Students will consider how changing the mass of an object affects the collision of two objects. Students will observe the motion of two balls before and after a collision to determine the effect of the energy transfer. Students will come to understand that when objects collide, energy is transferred and affects the motion of the objects. In the Engage portion of this lesson, show students the following video, Amazing Billiards in Super Slow Motion, from Colin Colenso. Pause the video at 16 seconds to explain to students that the camera is now a thermal imaging camera. This type of camera shows the temperature of the objects being recorded. You'll notice there is a thermometer on the right-hand side of the screen. If objects become orange or yellow, they are getting warmer. If objects are purple, they are cooler. As students watch the video, ask them the question prompts shown here. At this point, accept all student answers. By the end of this lesson, students should be able to say that energy is transferred when a collision occurs. In the Explore portion of this lesson, students will design an investigation to find out more about the changes in energy that occur when objects collide. They will collect observational data about the motion and energy of objects after a collision. They can use the distance an object travels or the change in motion as an indicator of energy transferred in the collision. They can also provide qualitative indicators observed during the collision, such as sound produced. They will change the types of balls colliding with one another and keep the height of the ramp the same. Students should refer to the question on their Collisions student page. Place students into 6 groups. Each group will need one set of balls, a bouncy ball, ping pong ball, and tennis ball. They will also need enough books or blocks to build a small ramp using the plastic rulers. Go over and display the procedure for the investigation. For more information about the setup of this lab, visit the Unit 20 Lesson 3 Explore tutorial. Guidance can be found on teacher pages 11 and 12. In the Explain portion of this lesson, after groups have had a chance to do the investigation and recorded their data, students should answer their analysis questions. After all groups have written their answers, take the time to review exemplary responses and have students update their answers if necessary. Guidance for this is on teacher page 13. After reviewing responses to the analysis questions, ask students, what happens to the energy in a collision? How do you know? How can you observe energy transfer? Next, distribute the collisions problem found on student page 11. This is an opportunity for students to analyze and interpret data that relates the transfer of energy in a collision to the mass of an object. Guidance for this is found on teacher page 14. In the Elaborate portion of this lesson, students will consider how else they can see energy transferred during a collision. Demonstrate to students how energy is transferred when you drop balls on the ground. First, bounce the ping pong ball on the floor by dropping it from shoulder height. Have a student volunteer mark how high it bounced. Next, drop the bouncy ball from the same height and watch how high it bounced. Ask, what energy changes did you observe when the ball collided with the ground? Now, hold the bouncy ball and ping pong ball together with the ping pong ball directly on top of the bouncy ball. Drop them both and ask students, what energy changes did you observe? Students might respond that sound was produced, there was a change in motion, or they noticed that the ball didn't go as high this time. Students should see that the bouncy ball had more energy than the ping pong ball by seeing how high each bounced when dropped on the floor separately. When the balls were dropped together, the energy from the bouncy ball is transferred to the ping pong ball. When the bouncy ball hits the floor first, it bounces up and collides with the ping pong ball. This transfers the greater energy of the bouncy ball to the ping pong ball, which causes it then to travel higher and faster than when it was dropped by itself. For additional assistance, view this ping pong drop tutorial. In the Evaluate, have students respond to this prompt using the claim, evidence, reasoning framework found on student page 12. An example is found in the teacher pages. Use this rubric on teacher page 16 for guidance in crafting an exemplary response. Next, tie this learning back to the phenomenon videos students watched in Lesson 1 and ask, what have we figured out so far that could help us explain how the girl was able to take out the trash using her invention? What questions do you still have? Revisit the chart of questions students developed in Lesson 1 and let them see how their thinking has changed. In the optional Extend activity, students will view videos that demonstrate how energy can also be transferred in the form of sound energy and heat by using colliding spheres. If time permits, students can manipulate mass and velocity in a controlled setting to learn more about collisions and explore the collision cart interactive from the physics classroom. By the end of this lesson, students will come to understand that when objects collide, energy is transferred and affects the motion of the objects. This lesson builds the foundation for studying the relationship between speed and energy by observing the motion of an object.